Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go into part 2 of my story, of my relinquishment story, and give you more details about the birth and all the way up until I left the hospital and how all that transpired for me. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, my name is Kat. I'm a 47-year-old birth mom to my 31-year-old daughter, and we've been in reunion for 3.5 years now. So now I am going to go into the story of her birth and how that all went in the hospital, because it's pertinent, because there are lots of things that happened in the hospital as well. And you know, just labor and everything like that. It is pertinent to the story. So I'm going to start with the night before birth. It wasn't Braxton Hicks. It was labor. It was pre-labor. I started to go in pretty bad. It was a Sunday night, and my mom called the midwife, and she told her to have me get into a hot bath, as hot as I possibly could, so to prolong the labor, to see if we can stop it until tomorrow, because I guess the midwife didn't want to be bothered on a Sunday night. It was too inconveniencing for her to, you know, deliver a 15-year-old's baby. So we had to stop that. So I also called Maksud to let him know, and he didn't want anything to do with it. So I basically went into pre-labor. So I went into this bathtub, and I guess my sister called Colleen. Honestly, I don't remember if Colleen was like, "Can I be there?" And I was like, "Sure," because at this point, anything that anybody wanted to do, it was all about them. It was never about me. Okay. So Colleen came, and I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm naked in a bathtub, and I have my sister, my mother, and Colleen all in this tiny little bathroom, just like gawking at me, you know. And I remember how uncomfortable it felt to be 15, pregnant, in labor, and naked in front of all these people. That night, Colleen thought it was appropriate to sing to me, because I don't remember what her deal was, but I remember she was in like the plays and stuff at school, I think. But so she sang to me, and she sang the song Roxanne by Sting, or the Police at that point. You know, Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. And I was like, you know, why is she singing this song to me? That song is about a man who falls in love with a prostitute. So now I think when I found that out when I was older, I was not mortified, but why would you associate me with that song? So now every time I hear that fucking song, I hate it, because it's the beginning of the end of the time that me and my daughter had together. It's also about a fucking prostitute. And then finally the contractions subsided, and I was able to get out, and I went to sleep for the night. The next day, I had an appointment at the hospital for, I don't remember if it was, I think it was an ultrasound. I think her due date, like that they had given me, was April 26th, because we didn't know when I got pregnant or anything. So we assumed it was April 26th, and now, mind you, this was May 7th. So if it was indeed May 26th, she was very late. But the next day I went to the hospital for the ultrasound, and I remember they would call you in to because I went through midwives. I was on Medicaid, state insurance and everything like that. So I went into the room when they called me in, and no, I remember sitting in the waiting room and my water broke. And I'm there all alone. And there was only two pieces of clothing that I could wear. Maksud's mother, another Pakistani, so she had gifted me. It was beautiful too. It was their cultural clothes. It was the pants with the long shirt, and it was beaded and everything. I loved it. It was comfortable and everything. But the pants were great because the pants were elastic, and I was huge, so they fit me perfectly. So I had those, and I had a skirt that I wore. And I remember sitting there, and the water broke. And I mean, thank God I was in the hospital because everybody else was at work or whatever. Colleen had dropped me off that day. I think, yeah, it was Colleen. And I was sitting there, my water broke, and I told the lady, I think my water broke. And she said, okay, we'll be right with you. Like, no, nobody cares. Nobody cares. So they called me in, and I remember those wet, sagging pants clinging to my leg, and I was like, I think my water broke, and they were like, all right, let's get you in the room. Got me in the room, and they walked in. Yep, still sure smells like water in here. Like, and just like nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody was comforting like you see, when women go to the hospital. Oh, we're going to help you out, honey. We're going to, and there was none of that. Nobody gave a damn about the 15-year-old girl who was pregnant. So, I remember that they made me walk to the appointment. There was no wheelchair. You know how the woman comes in pregnant and she's put into a wheelchair right away? Nope, none of that. Everything was walking, and I remember the goddamn hospital was under construction. And so I'm walking. I had to walk this certain way to this certain elevator to take it up to get an ultrasound. And I'm walking through construction, and it still bothers me because I'm like, why? Why is it like this? Like, where's my wheelchair? Like, I'm in labor. Like, I mean, it hurt. You ever had a kid? It hurts. So I'm walking through construction. These wet, sagging pants are sticking to me, and and then everybody's looking at me because I look like I pissed on myself. And I get in the elevator and I go upstairs. And by this time, the contractions are getting really bad. And I remember getting in that elevator, and I had a big contraction. And I was just like, oh. And I was glad to be in that elevator all alone. And then I get to the appointment, and they put me in the room, and I'm all there all by myself. And the contractions started. And it was so painful, and I'm in this room all alone, and it's very dark because ultrasounds, they did them in a darkened room and everything, because technology wasn't like they were today. I still think they darken rooms. So, and I remember just being so uncomfortable and in so much pain, and then finally somebody came in, and she's doing the ultrasound. She said, if you don't stay still, we can't get this done. And I'm just like, I'm in labor. Like, what do you want? Like, it would. Just thinking about the whole experience. I mean, it's just how people treat people. Like, it's just horrible. So I remember her yelling at me. And then finally, they told me to go to labor and delivery. Again, no wheelchair, no nothing. Walk. You walk to labor and delivery. I mean, if they were trying to make me not ever have a baby again, they succeeded. Because that whole experience, I was thinking about this the other day. I think that if I had another baby, if I was strong enough, if I didn't have that feeling of betrayal to my daughter, I think I would have been crazy. I think the whole process, because I mean, you see me now crying. I mean, the whole process was triggering. I mean, to have to go back and deal with doctors like that again and nurses that treated you like that. I don't know. I think I would have lost it. So I get to labor and delivery, and they put me in a room, and they put strap around me for a stress test to monitor the baby's heartbeat. And so I called my mom. I had them call my mom. I called Maksud again. P didn't want anything to do with it. My mom was at work. She'll be there after work. Um, and so then I just basically laid there until they started to come in more often. Sorry, I'm not even looking at the camera. So then, active labor starts, and they have me squat, and they want me to sit on the toilet, and I'm like, she's gonna fall in the toilet, So just a whole bunch of different things, and then come to find out, she was what's called sunny side up. She was a sunny side up baby. And I don't know if she knows this. If she knows that she was face up. I don't know if she ever, because I looked this up because I always thought that it was considered breech, but breech is only feet first. So it's considered sunny side up when they're face up, and only 5 to 8% of babies are born sunny side up. So my daughter is quite rare the way she came into the world. But it was very hard labor. It was from the time that I went into the pre-labor the night before to actually giving birth to her at 6:45 at night on May 7th. It was 24 hours of labor, and I pushed for 4. And they never gave me any epidural. They told me I was too late for that, and they couldn't do that. They didn't care. They called in some other man doctor because she was sunny side up and she wasn't coming. And this man stuck his whole hand into my vagina to try to turn my daughter around. And that was painful because I didn't have any, numbing agents or anything to help me with pain. I remember throwing up because I had had a turkey sandwich before I went in for my appointment. Colleen came, my sister came, and I remember Colleen being there and being like, "You're doing great." Like, I remember being so delirious. I was just so delirious. Like, I felt like I had to give up. I had no energy. And this 4 hours, I'm 15 years old, no drugs, no nothing. And, she said, "Oh, you're doing great. Shut up. Shut up, leave me alone, go away." It was just, it was a lot. So, and I remember I had to get an episiotomy. And my sister was like, "Oh, I want to watch this." So, when they take it, they numb it and then they just jab scissors in there and cut you open. And so then my sister's like, "Ugh, ugh." And I'm like, really? Like nobody really had any decency. I mean, Colleen a little bit, but it was more annoying. She's like, "Oh, can I watch?" And she's watching this head come out of my vagina. And, like, so it was very difficult labor. They tried to use forceps on her because she just wasn't coming. And then they said, I remember them saying, "If she doesn't come out in 5 minutes, we're doing a C-section." And I heard that, and I pushed with all my might, and I got her out. And they cleaned her up a little bit and put her on my chest, and I held her right away and everything. I don't remember the umbilical cord because that was, I don't know. You know, if you've been in labor, you know that you're exhausted and but it's crazy because the minute she came out, like you have this rush of like adrenaline that comes back to you. So I was more alert then and everything, but I was still very uncomfortable because my legs were in the air, and you know they're sewing up the episiotomy and stuff. So I said to my mom, I was like, "Can you take her?" Because she was also starting to cry and everything. I think at this point her umbilical cord was cut, so my mom held her, um, and you know everybody started passing her around and everything. Then I had to give birth to the placenta, and they really grind on you, and that was so painful, you know, because I didn't have any drugs. So and then I had to give birth to the placenta, and then they're like, "Oh, this is a great big placenta. Can we keep it for science?" And for all I know, they could have used the stem cells to create some lamb somewhere or something. I have no idea. There could be another one of my daughters running around out there. Who knows? I so that was labor, and when she was born. Then my sister invites her boyfriend at the time, and she asked me, can he come in? And I said yes, because I'm just kind of like out of it, but it was completely inappropriate. And he brought me flowers. Like, why are you bringing me flowers? This isn't a celebration. Like, everybody knows that she's being given away because nobody will support me. Like, everybody, so why am I getting flowers? You know, and then I started to really look at her, and she had little marks on her head, um, little like scrapes, and I was worried about them, and it was from the forceps, so they said she would be fine. She had a full head of hair. She had a full head of hair. She was a pretty baby. I just had lunch with her yesterday and it was awesome. So now the fact that I'm crying over this is kind of funny. So after that, all I wanted to do was sleep. Um, so that's what I did. They put me back in a room, and I slept, and I spent 3 days in the hospital because that's what insurance would pay for. So they did do that for me at the hospital. They did say to the insurance company that I needed to stay in the hospital for that much time, and it allowed me 3 days with my daughter. And I fed her and I clothed her. Oh, my makeup. Sorry. I fed her and I clothed her and I bathed her and I changed her and I spent as much time with her as I could. And I loved her as much as I possibly could during that time. And I told her I was sorry. And I looked at all her little toes and all her little fingers. And I looked at her body all over because I wanted to remember. She had the most beautiful dark eyes. They were almost black. It was so original. I also remember there was a woman in my room. Now, the room that I was in was a 4-bed room in the maternity ward, and it was the window bed, me, and then another woman, and so it was empty, me, but this is empty by the window, me, woman by the window, empty. And I remember the woman asking me how old I was and what I was doing, and I told her I was giving her up for adoption. And she told me that her name was Portia, and she told me that she was an adoptee, and that I was doing the right thing, and she can come find me one day when she's older. And she told me another person, and this was an adoptee, telling me that I couldn't take care of a baby, that it wasn't right, and I was doing the right thing. So, at the time, it kind of made me feel a little bit better. But for all I know, this woman could have been lying to me. So, yeah. And then it came time to leave the hospital. And I remember leaving the hospital, and I left there a changed person. I was not the person that I was when I went to the hospital. I became a shell of a person, and I remember the feeling in my stomach. I remember being in that wheelchair, and all I wanted to do was get up and run back and grab her. But I couldn't. I was frozen. And because I had nothing. I didn't know. I didn't know anything. Nobody had given me any type of guidance or anything. And my mother screaming in my face, I don't want a fucking baby in this house. Well, that, kind of solidified things for me. So, I just sat there, and then I got in my mom's car and I went home. So, that is part 2. I'll finish up with part 3 next week. All right. Thanks for subscribing. I'll talk to you soon. Sorry I cried so much. Bye-bye.